Open House Thursday on Your View. Welcome to the show. I am Murayo Afolabi Brown. As always, I have the ladies with me. Wake in the building.
Good morning.
How you doing?
I'm fine. Okay.
Anything happening?
So I
Aside
sent
from our Valentine tomorrow.
Apart from a Valentine tomorrow, I sent someone to the market to buy me tomato, elubo, ginger, and some food, and everybody refused POS, refused transfer. They wanted new money, which I did not have. So hunger is coming.
Are you serious? No. I thought the markets are now accepting POS.
No,
I've not gone to the market yet.
So people are also rejecting that.
Yeah. I went to the supermarket and there was no chicken, there was no beef, nothing. Because usually I can't go to the markets, they probably ask for cash. The supermarket, the freezers were empty.
Wow.
Then...
Wow, and there's nothing in my house, so no food. Though.
My brother needed money because it sends his kids to school with money. So he had to transfer to a POS operator 50K and got 40K.
No way.
I'm not
10,000 naira profit.
10,000.
This is ludicrous.
But why are they taking so much profit?
It's wrong now. It's a Nigerian factor.
You can put 1K, 2K on top.
It depends on how much. Anyway.
Maybe they're also buying it from
They are buying it from where? So we have now a situation where we are buying money.
Yes, we are buying our own money.
Buying money. You can't afford it. You can't afford it.
Wow.
I mean, so now if the supermarket freezers are empty,
that's it.
At some point now I would, because I had to just buy whatever I had to buy gizzard stuff, like whatever was available.
Yeah.
Just like I
have that
protein.
Yesterday. Yeah.
But then by today, tomorrow, there'll be
I better
nothing.
go to the stores today and see what I can get. There's
nothing
in the house.
What is even more sad is those who plant and sell in bulk. All those in the north, in the middle belt, food is just wasting.
Yes, fruits,
there's no money.
Vegetables.
They've reduced, the prices have come
We'll find out what
down.
Buhari is saying, because we know he spoke this morning. We'll discuss that a bit later. Anyway, how are you doing, Mariam? Tomorrow is our big day.
Yes, tomorrow is our big day. It's Valentine's. Let's have a time that we can just come and forget about what's happening just for a few hours. I'm looking forward to it.
Yes.
I'm looking forward to meeting everyone and talking. It's at 5 p.m. It's a lovely place, lovely activities.
So between 5 and 6, we're just kind of networking, talk, meet each other, take pictures, you know. And 6, we start. 6, start with all our MCs, designated MCs, Mariam and Berjilu. We're taking over, you know, having the conversation.
Yeah.
Then dinner is 7. After dinner, then we'll do more pictures. And then 8 o'clock, after dinner, dance, and have
games,
a good time.
music, karaoke,
everything
like that.
Yeah.
Nice. How you doing, Bisi?
Yes, I'm just looking forward to the Valentine. I've been cracking my head. What do I wear? Waiting we go wear.
I was not asking me, what should I wear? I said, I don't even thought of my own. No, and I can't even think.
Brother, I can wear native.
Whatever you want to wear. I'm not the I thought we wanted to wear pink.
I thought it was white.
Seriously?
Yeah, I'm wearing white.
You're wearing white and a touch of pink?
Yeah.
Yes.
If
I don't have white too.
You can wear pink.
White is one of the colors I don't really wear.
Okay.
Nice.
I don't know why.
Because you like to mix your colors. You like a lot of.
I mean, there will be white. There can be white inside, but a complete white.
But you have pink now. You have pinkish something.
So it's white or pink?
White or pink?
white.
Yeah, let's just
White or pink.
We can have a touch of white and pink.
I was intending to wear yellow.
Oh.
What an off!
Don't worry. Okay, anything.
It's a sunny Valentine.
Just show up. All right, it's Thursday. We would have loved to just gist away today, but we can't. Buhari has spoken, and we must discuss his speech. But first, let's go to the front page of the papers, and later we'll discuss the Naira matter at hand. Stay with us. We'll be right back.
Stay tuned.
Okay, we're going to start with The Nation. Out of court settlement, talks on Naira crisis collapse. Punish PDP for reneging on power shift, says APC chair. Wike, Tinubu turned down PDP's offer to sabotage Buhari in 2019. Inflation rises to 21%, 21.82%, says NBS. 4 killed in Naira scarcity violence. FEC okays electronic tracking system to curb oil theft. Okay, which story are we starting with in The Nation?
Inflation. So the National Bureau of Statistics, NBS, yesterday said, owing to the increases in the cost of fuel, gas, passengers and air transportation, inflation rates rose from 21.34% last December 2022 to 21.82% last month, which was January. According to the Consumer Price Index, CPI report January 2023, it said it soared from 0.47% points compared to that of last December. MBS also said that in January 2023, the headline inflation rate rose to 21.82% compared to December 2022. Headline inflation rates also rose rates, which was at 21.34%. It went ahead to say that the food inflation rate in January 2023 was 24.32% on a year-on-year basis, which was 7.19% points higher compared to the rate recorded in January 2022. So I think it's an article that we need to read to monitor how the inflation has been going. And we remember that one of the reasons the CBN policy to redesign the Naira was to curb inflation. And now we are hearing that inflation is even rising. So it has not done anything for us. We have not achieved anything with this Naira redesign.
It's not too early to judge. Let us give it some time.
Inflation data, people should read it.
So, I mean, it's interesting, but I'd like to give you some time and see how indeed it helps to, hopefully,
Hope we'll be alive then.
My sister.
Let's take another story in the
I
nation.
have a story. So the APC yesterday rally held in Rivers State, and the presidential candidate for the APC also visited, gave a courtesy call to the governor of Rivers State. And during their meeting, Wike said that he explained that he was talking about the passing of, Bola Ahmed Tinubu. He said he remembered in 2019 where he, as a PDP member and other PDP stalwarts, had a meeting and they were trying to get Asiwaju to boycott and sabotage Buhari, but he refused. At first he said, so who is it that you have as an alternative if you don't want us to go with Buhari? And then they mentioned Tambuwal, mentioned Bukola Saraki, and a couple, and Atiku. And he said, well, if those are your alternatives, that he laughed. He says, you actually don't know them. If these ones are your alternatives, then I would rather stick with Buhari. So he says that he admired his loyalty and his steadfastness, that he's a man of character, and so he believes he's the sort of person that, we should stand behind. He also took a swipe at Emefiele and says that he has never seen in any democratic country ever that the Supreme Court, that the CBN governor would be working against, what the Supreme Court has stated, that please, somebody should tell him that how is it, how he talks. So he brings that, please, I have never seen, is this real,
Warriors answered him. Let me go to Minister of Transportation, Muhammadu Buhari, was saying yesterday that the country has secured the electronic cargo tracking system, and this will help Nigeria to monitor maritime movement. According to him, he was addressing FEC meeting yesterday, where the president was also there at the villa, and he said that this state-of-the-art scheme has been implemented in about 26 African countries, including Ghana, Benin Republic, Togo, Senegal, and others. It has helped to check oil theft and other maritime theft. So it will tackle under-declared goods at ports and secure imports and exports, provide transparency in cargo invoicing and declaration. So this will be good for tracking all those that are coming in and going out. He also said that some of the benefits is that it will ensure the elimination of loopholes in border operations and boost the federal government's revenue and all types of duties. So that's a good thing for Nigeria. Let's move on quickly.
Yes,
have a story?
the out-of-court settlement first, please. The federal government had reached out to the governors for an out-of-court settlement, but saying that they had destroyed the 500 and the 1,000 naira notes. And the governors said, no, that the federal government lied, that they hadn't destroyed the 500 and 1,000 naira notes. So the talks broke down. And then El Rufai had said that, look, the president didn't reach out himself. It was some of his people. And
that was the major headline, right?
That was the major headline.
All right, let's move on quickly now to the Punch. New Naira notes. Violence spreads in states, 3 killed, banks burnt. Evans ordered to pay kidnapped victim £223,000, or euros actually, and 50 million naira. Soldiers are avenging colleague's death by killer cop burned station. Marketers ignore federal government sell petrol for over 230 Naira to the litre. Amechi was absent at Tinubu's Rivers rally. Naira, while APC governors rejected the federal government settlement term, says El Rufai. And Wike, 4 others not relevant outside PDP, says PCC spokesman. Okay, which story are we taking in Punch?
Well, marketers are ignoring federal government. Federal government ignores Supreme Court. Marketers ignore everybody, ignoring everyone. Anyway, the oil marketers have it's reported that they have snubbed the Minister of State for Petroleum Resources, who had given the directive that petrol should be sold at 184 Naira per litre. And the minister was also, the Minister of State was in Lagos to do like a regulatory check to check the situation as regards distribution and also adherence to price regulations. And then journalists, asking him questions about the price and the fact that it's being sold at different prices other places. So he says that for all the NNPC outlets, retail outlets, and there are 900 of them, they will be selling at 184 Naira per litre. But according to reports, in that week, we have petrol sold at 185 Naira per litre at these NNPC outlets. And then we also have oil marketers, Major Oil Marketers Association of Nigeria, so MOMA. So there are some petroleum marketers that fall under that, like MRS, Northwest, Rwanda, and so on. They are also selling at 185. But then we have the independent petroleum marketers who are selling at 200, 210. But they're saying, see, let us sell off our old stock. Secondly, as long as government has said they will supply to us 172 Naira per litre. If they're able to do that, then we'll be able to sell at government-regulated prices. But they're also a bit concerned. How are they going to be able to make sure that they supply them at these prices? That if government is consistent and it's honest, then they too will play their part.
Okay. So it was observed yesterday that the former Minister of Transportation, Rotimi Amechi, was absent at the rally in Rivers State yesterday. Some of his loyalists were there. According to the reports, most of his loyalists, like Emeka Ebeke and others, were in attendance, but he was conspicuously absent. And people obviously are asking questions about what happened, especially he's been rather silent since he lost the primary bid to Ashwaju within the party. So that's just what that report was saying, that he noticed he wasn't.
Was he at the other rallies? Has he been
Not,
at the other
yeah,
rallies?
but this was his state. He hasn't been at other rallies, but this was the state. Expected that he would have been
He
there.
hasn't
Show
been at the other rallies.
Maybe he's still sulking from the primaries.
So,
Maybe it's just busy.
Okay,
yeah.
so
Okay, go on.
Or he's just busy. Yes, let me just make sure.
Lagos State High Court at Tafawa Balewa Square on Tuesday ordered convicted billionaire kidnap kingpin Chukwu Dumeme Onwa-Amadike, popularly known as Evans, to refund the sum of 233,000 euros ransom he coercively collected from one of his kidnapped victims, Chief Donatus Dunu. In addition, the Justice Olukayode Ogunjobi also ordered the convicted kidnapper to pay the sum of 50 million naira as general damages in favor of the claimant. So Dunu is a pharmacist who was abducted February 14th, 2017, and held hostage with a ransom collected from his family before he managed to escape from captivity, and is a chief executive officer of Maidon Pharmaceutical Company. So later on, he filed a civil suit praying that the court will order Evans to pay him back the money and also another 50 million for damages. So the matter has been in court, and the judge is judging against Evans, ordering him to pay that money back because he feels that his witnessing was not very coherent.
Let's go on a quick break. When we come back, we continue with our review. Stay with us. We'll be right back.
Stay tuned. Your View will be right back.
Thanks for staying with us. We're still reviewing the papers. Wike had a story in Punch.
Yeah, the soldiers, about the soldiers avenging their colleague's death. Apparently, a soldier was stabbed to death, supposedly by policemen. So they went on a rampage and they burnt a police station. People heard about it because of this girl who was there. Her name, Rafiat Alamid. She wrote on her Twitter handle, I had to trek from Ogudinyo to Ogijo today, running away from place to place trying to avoid soldiers. The soldiers were partially beating passers-by, and there was no movement, you know, no vehicular movement. So
The major
but the
story.
police have said it was not Lagos, so it was Ogun State.
Okay. So our protests over the Naira scarcity and ban on old notes escalated yesterday in some states. They said 4 persons were killed in Edo State. 9 of the protesters were arrested in Delta for setting 2 banks and 2 vehicles ablaze. 5 were also arrested in Kwara State by the police. There are other states that they had a lot of violence. A lot of people took to the streets. They disrupted movements. Oyo, Ondo, Ogun, Akwa Ibom. The Federal Capital Territory was not left out. There were a lot of angry depositors at the CBN's gates, you know, trying to stop people from getting into the building. But the one that happened in Edo State, they said the protest was very intense. Soldiers were drafted to complement the police to protect the CBN branch. There were bullets fired up and down. And the government is now accusing Oshomole, saying that they need to be wary of his movements. They have to call him and question him because it seemed like he's working against the state. And so they have to call him in, question him on his movements this past few days before this protest broke out. It's just been very violent. We saw some videos on social media as well showing all of this violence.
I thought it was Naira.
His
What does Oshomole have
response,
to do with it?
exactly. He said, look somewhere else for blame, please. So
You
let's leave that
you
there.
refuse to collect Naira notes. You're now saying Oshomole.
He said he was in Imo on Tuesday. He was in Rivers yesterday. So how is it?
Oh, yeah.
His fault.
This one to Vanguard. Vanguard, old Naira notes, Buhari mulls extension of validity to April 10th. JAM extends 2023 UTME registration for a week. Police arrest 7 over murder of Dr. Sarumi's foster son. Polls, FG summons finish envoy over Simon Ekpa's threat. Day 5, we won't stop until Bawa goes, says CSO. North suffered more under Buhari, says Northern elders. And 3 killed as protesters rock Oyo, Edo, Benue, and others. Okay, which story are we?
Let me take JAM. So I took like a week ago when JAM talked about the end of close of registration, which was supposed to have happened 14th of February. But they also, and they had registered over 1 million students. But then they noticed that towards the end of registration, especially about last week, people started registering again. In fact, they had made provisions for 100,000 per registration per day, but then they noticed towards, as the registration day was rounding up, they were getting almost 50,000 Naira per day. And in fact, as the days even came closer, more people were registering to hundreds of thousands, which is that Nigerian thing where we leave things to the very last minute. Anyways, they said that because they are a very responsive agency, they have extended it for another week, you know, to make sure that people are properly registered. But I also took the story because I remember one of the problems they had was that some people had issues with their registration. They were using different, what do you call it, biometric information. And so they had also tried to make sure that they were reviewing and revising that. So I'm thinking maybe that is also the reason why we still have people registering till now. But they've given you an extension. Please, let's just try and do that as soon as we can.
Okay, which other story in Vanguard?
Yeah, the police have arrested 7 people over the murder of Dr. Sarumi's foster son. Apparently, there had been shooting in the area. They came and but his car was at the mechanic. He was at the mechanic with his car, and then later on they were sitting opposite Dr. Sarumi's house in Agege, and these hooded men just walked past them. So they sensed danger. He was sitting with 6 of his friends. They sensed danger, so they got up to go, but the armed men, they were armed, so they came back and they shot. They caught him. They shot him in the head. According to one of the friends who chose anonymity, said they first beat him before they shot him.
Ew. So, civil society protesters have reached day 5 on the anti-Bauer, Bauer must go, that's the chairman of the EFCC, According to the reports, more CSOs have joined the current 120 CSOs who are protesting against him and asking for his removal. According, they have alleged that they've uncovered plans by the EFCC boss to raise perceived pro-Bauer CSOs to protest solidarity with him. According to them, they also said that, according to them, lavishing money on groups willing to be used against the well-being of Nigerians and the rule of law is the stock in trade of the EFCC boss and others like him in the current administration. I'm not really sure what that was. I probably missed the real reason, but that's the crux of why they're protesting and asking that Bauer must be sacked or he must go. This has happened since 5 days now, and there are more, and it's gaining grounds. Protesters are still in Lagos here, and they're still protesting and insisting that he has to go. I wonder what happened. I mean, well, I wasn't around, so... Okay, let's move on.
I have one more story there. The Pan-Arewa Socio-Political Organization, Northern Elders Forum, are complaining that the President Muhammadu Buhari, his negligence and lack of political will to fix the problems of Nigeria, it's worsening, especially in the north. So they are saying that under his administration, the northern people suffered more in terms of terrorism, banditry, and negligence of the region. So the convener of the Northern Elders Forum, Professor Ango Abdullahi, stated that this at the 10th anniversary of the Northern General Assembly, and he was saying that when they believed that President Muhammadu Buhari was better than President Jonathan, they campaigned massively for him. But after the first tenure and he got to a re-election, they campaigned against him because they knew that it will not work well, especially in the economy and security issues. And they were proven right now that he has gone back for his re-election. And so they are appealing that, because they've been noticing there are a lot of inciting words going here and there. Different political parties are fighting each other. They are appealing for peace. People cannot threaten people to say, if you vote for your person, we'll come after you. They are asking the northern people to vote peacefully this time around, and they are willing to back any president that emerges after the general elections.
That's all we can take on Front Page Review. When we come back, move on to our hot topic of the day. Stay with us. We'll be right back.
Stay tuned. Your View will be right back.
Thanks for staying with us. President Muhammadu Buhari spoke this morning to the nation, addressed the nation concerning the current issues we're having with the Naira notes. He said specifically that the old Naira notes will remain, that's 200 Naira notes, will remain a legal tender till April 10th. He made this declaration in a national broadcast to Nigerians this morning. In line with the Section 20, Subsection 3 of the CBN Act 2007, all existing 1,500 notes will remain redeemable only at CBN and designated points. Now, joining the conversation to explain the economic impact of this decision is a fiscal policy partner, an Africa tax leader at PricewaterhouseCoopers Company, PwC, Mr. Taiwo Oloyede. Welcome to the show, sir.
Yes, hello, good morning.
Good morning. Thank you for joining us this morning. All right, so let's start with the speech from our president this morning. He was reminding Nigerians that one of the main reasons why this policy was implemented was to strengthen the CBN's the ability to control the amount of Naira in circulation. We've heard this over the past few weeks. We want Nigerians to understand the impact of too much Naira in the system and why it was important for CBN to make this policy.
Okay, so from what I could hear from your question in terms of the amount of Naira in circulation, so the CBN said we have about 3.2 trillion Naira in circulation, and Mr. President also repeated that in his broadcast. But if you think about the total money supply, which is not just the cash, right? There's a difference between currency and money supply. Currency is the physical notes and coins, whereas money is broader than that, including the deposits you have with bank, money you have in the financial markets, and so on and so forth. That percentage is actually small. It's one of the smallest in the world. US has over 10%, UK has close to 9%, EU, even India. So many countries have far more than what Nigeria has in terms of the currency in circulation to GDP, or whether you even calculate it per capita. In other words, divide the amount of currency by the population. Nigeria has only about $34 equivalent per person. Compared to, if you take what America has, USD, and you divide by the global population, not even American population, world's population, it will give you about $280 per person on Earth. So, and then, some of the things that some of us don't understand is why on earth does the central bank expect that currency in circulation will be within the banking system? So they keep saying, and the president also said it also this morning, that the currency in circulation is not within the banking system. Currency are not supposed to be within the banking system. Otherwise, there will be no need to even print the notes in the first place. Currency is supposed to be in circulation. So the farmer in the village, the trader on the street, the vulcanizer, so the bus driver, that's where currency is supposed to be.
Well, as a follow-up to that, sir, he was saying something about financial inclusion. So they're trying to attract the informal sector into the banking system. Is that necessary with this policy?
No, financial inclusion does not mean that you no longer have cash in circulation. So I'm financially included. So I have bank accounts, I have different apps on my phone, and I still use cash. When I want to, pay vulcanizer to do my tire, I use cash. When I want to pay a tip to a gatesman, I don't ask them for their POS, right? So there's no economy where you have no cash. Not a single economy in the world. Every economy uses cash. So I'm not saying that the CBN should not do what they're doing. I'm just saying that the data that we are using may be pushing us in the wrong direction, such that we now have the policy being implemented in a manner that is creating more pain than is necessary. I think the average Nigerian agrees that we need to go through some, sacrifices to make our country what we need it to be, but not when I have only 5,000 naira in my bank account and I want to pay for, to give my kids 200 naira to go to school. You're not going to give them a card, and when they want to buy a biscuit, they ask for POS, right? You want to pay for hospital bill, you can't pay it. We've seen people going naked in banking halls. That's not funny. Those are not people who created those problems for Nigeria. They just want to live their lives. So we have to find a way to distinguish between illicit money, which is usually in hundreds, if not hundreds of millions, if not billions of naira, which in my view is easier to tackle than trying to punish the 200 million innocent Nigerians.
Okay, sir. So the quagmire some of us are going to enter from next week now, like me, I've exhausted all the little cash I have, is that when the kids are going to school, they can no longer have snacks. So they will eat at home and go to school, and hopefully till they get back.
If you're speaking now, I can't hear you anymore.
Okay. Can you hear me now, sir?
Hello? Hello, sir. Can you hear me? Hello? Okay, I think we're having a bit of a connection issue. We need to get to... Let's go on a quick break. When we come back, we'll try to connect with our guest again. Stay with us. We'll be right back.
Stay tuned. Your View will be right back.
Hello, thanks for staying with us. So we still have our guest with us, Mr. Taiwo Oloyede. Sir, are you still there?
Yes, Taiwo Yedele.
Yes.
Okay, so Mr. Taiwo, I wanted to ask you, Do you think it's right that the government is sending us back to the CBN to swap the money, knowing that individuals didn't have any direct interaction with the CBN in the first place? We paid our money into the banks, and now they're asking us to go to the CBN to redeem this money.
Yeah, so I think, what the CBN is trying to do is to comply with the provisions of the Central Bank Act that says that even if if you say that Naira is no longer, a particular Naira is no longer legal tender, you must still honor it when it's presented to you. But I do agree with you. It's quite awkward to ask the ordinary person to go to the central bank. First, you don't have an account with central bank, and they don't want to do a swap. So when you give them the money, how does it get into your account? How do you find, in fact, how many towns and villages have CBN, branches? I don't know of any. So you only find them in capital cities.
Exactly.
And if I have only 2,000 naira, the money and the transfer to get to the CBN that is closest to me might even be 10,000 naira. What I think the CBN should have done is to say that if you are depositing old notes and is below a certain threshold, it can be as low as 100,000 naira. Still go to your bank and deposit it there. And the banks, when they are remitting it to the CBN, will provide a schedule of those who deposited so that they don't go and collect 100 billion from one politician and go and give to CBN. If you now have big amounts that is more than that threshold, you can say go to the central bank. According to the information provided by the Deposit Insurance Commission, about 98% of bank account holders have less than 500,000 naira in their bank account. So cover those people and let the big people with 100 million naira, 1 billion, 2 billion be the ones to start looking for the central bank offices.
Okay. Could you help us? Because the president is quite insistent on his speech that he is doing this only for our own good and to strengthen our economy and protect us, from corruption and unscrupulous politicians and things like that. And he sees this as doing something good for the citizens. And so I would like to know, what are the positives really of this policy and the way it is being implemented? Especially, he mentions inflation, and he mentions exchange rate stability. Please, could you explain to us what the positives are, especially as regards inflation and exchange rate stability?
Yeah, so I couldn't hear you properly. I think your question was, around the stability.
Yes.
So I know the president mentioned the issues around price stability, inflation, money control, and all of that. But the reality is that, inflation is not influenced by whether you pay in cash or whether you use electronic payment to pay. So if you are buying bread or you are buying a meal from a restaurant, whether you give them 5,000 naira notes or whether you do that on your app, it's still, money you're spending. It affects inflation. So inflation is affected by money supply, which is not only cash, it's money supply. So, and if you're saying, okay, for 200 naira old note to continue to be in circulation, then the question we need to ask ourselves is, the CBN said they have withdrawn over 2 trillion naira from the system. Do we have enough 200 naira notes, old and new? And the lower denomination, are they up to that amount that you have withdrawn? Because one recipe for creating chaos is when you withdraw 2 trillion and you inject 300 billion naira. So Nigerians will not convert to cashless overnight. It takes time. Exactly. Infrastructure is not even there. People have done bank transfers, for the past 5 days, they haven't seen the credit. No. POS, is down many times. So it's almost like saying that people should suffer and be helpless and not complain. So when people are poor and they are, hungry and they're angry, they cannot be rational. All this thing about make sacrifice for your country, doesn't work for someone who has only 2,000 naira and they cannot withdraw it to buy a garri. So they won't understand whatever you're saying because they don't see why they should be punished for a problem that they did not create in the first place. Exactly. So we can accomplish those objectives of price stability, monetary control, illicit, reducing illicit financial flow within the system, stopping politicians from, buying votes. We can do all of that without creating this level of pain that the ordinary people are having to go through.
Right.
And I also think that it's not, it's dangerous for, because the central bank has said that a number of times. The president said it also today. It's dangerous to keep blaming the banks. Because banks are very well organized. You can deal with them. You can punish them without telling anyone. Yeah. So when this narrative about banks are part of the problem, if you allow it to continue, we're going to create a bigger problem for ourselves when banks are being attacked all over the place. Because people won't know which bank is guilty or not. They just attack the next bank they can find. And if that affects the financial system, we're going to have a bigger problem on our hands.
Right.
Yeah. I was going to ask, how can they stop the politicians from depositing this money? If their problem is the politicians and the illicit money, how can they stop it without it affecting us? Because they want to stop politicians now, it's affecting me that I never collect political money before for my life. It's affecting a lot of people.
Yeah, I think
who haven't collected money.
Yes, I think the way I hear you is that how can this be solved without affecting the ordinary people? I think it's not complicated. If you use data, you would easily conclude that 99% of Nigerians don't have up to 10 million naira, either in cash in their bank account or the money they kept at home. Vast majority of Nigerians don't even have up to 500,000 naira they can boast of. Yeah. So you could have developed this policy to say that if you are bringing the old note and it was more than, maybe say 2 million naira, then you need a different set of documentation to know who you are, where you got the money from, what business are you doing, right? And then now that you say you take it to the central bank, also create a threshold. If you are bringing 5,000 naira, you can bring it to the bank. If you're bringing 1 billion naira, go to central bank so that EFCC knows who you are, ICPC, Financial Intelligence Unit, central bank. We can collect all your data. And of course, if you set a threshold like that to protect 99% of Nigerians, nobody will go on the street because the people who have those big amounts of money, even when they don't like the process, they cannot protest because they don't want anybody to know that they even had 1 billion in the first place.
Right.
So both in terms of depositing the old notes,
right?
Yes.
What you said right now sounds really fundamental and basic for a CBN governor to propose to the president. Is it that? Do you think there is a deliberate action to actually just frustrate Nigerians? Because they keep saying it's because of the politicians, but what you just said is like it's a no-brainer. Don't you think? Why is it that they're not coming up with these suggestions for the people, or even finding ways to make it easier for regular Nigerians to swap or deposit their money?
People don't matter.
Okay, I could barely hear you. What I figured out is, are the policymakers not thinking in that line? Is that your question?
Yeah, about that, right. Yes.
Yeah, so I do think, first, I don't think that there was any need to do this in secret. So a lot of it was kept to, just between the CBN and the president. The finance minister was on record to have said that she wasn't even aware. I don't see anything wrong in carrying your economic team along. The security agencies, financial intelligence units, Ministry of Finance, even, to be honest, I'll say even the governors, right? So debate it so that you have all the plans, because whether they know or not, if somebody has 10 billion naira cash, at home, even if they know you are bringing out the policy, what would they do? Would they go and burn it, or would they go and dash it out to everyone? So there's no way they could defeat your objective.
Exactly.
But if you plan it properly, you'd have considered different scenarios. If this happens, what do we do? So there's nothing even wrong in CBN having enough new notes that they are keeping for when things get so hot like this. You release it so that you can douse the tension. If the ordinary man can get to the ATM and get 2,000, 5,000, a lot of these problems will go away. I think that we didn't have enough, thinking around what could go wrong and how that could be prevented before launching the program. And that for me was a big disappointment.
Okay, sir. We know that some governors had taken the federal government to court, asking for an extension for a while so that we are able to phase this out gradually. And now, this morning, the president is making a pronouncement that 200 Naira notes should be released, and that's only what we are going to get. Do you think this action negates the fact that this matter is already in court? And how does the rule of law play in all of this?
No, I think we always have to respect the rule of law, and I think the president said that in his statement, even though it's not clear how allowing only 200 Naira to circulate now means you've complied with the rule of law, where the Supreme Court says allow the old currency to circulate. So hopefully that we can find a balance, because when you don't comply with the Supreme Court, it goes beyond just the currency. It sends a very wrong signal to not only your country, but to the whole world, that we don't regard due process. So if you disagree with the Supreme Court, you could have also instituted a process, also to the Supreme Court to say, we don't think you have jurisdiction, we don't think you should have said this, you find a way to also resolve it using due process, not taking the laws into your hand just because you have the powers to do so. In fact, the central bank governor, was saying that to diplomats, even, a day before, to say, the deadline remains despite the Supreme Court ruling. I don't think that is good enough. We have to find a way to balance political expediency with compliance with due process and the rule of law.
Mariam.
Okay, I would just like to see, Nigerians are buying Naira with Naira. So I want to withdraw 10,000 Naira, I have to pay 8,000 Naira. I'm withdrawing 50,000 Naira and I pay 10,000 Naira and I get 40,000 Naira. What would this mean for us, for our economy? And where would this lead us? Because it looks like the government thinks there's an end date, like maybe in 2 weeks everything would be okay, or in 2 months. What do you think? Is there an end date for these sort of things, and what would it look like?
Okay, I'm told it's frozen. We'll have to go on a break. When we come back, we'll continue with our questioning. Stay with us. We'll be right back.
Stay tuned. Your View will be right back.
Thanks for staying with us. So we had with us Mr. Taiwo Oyedele, who was from PwC, PricewaterhouseCoopers, and he was a tax leader, and he was expressing his opinions on as regards the issue of the Naira crunch that we're having right now, especially in relation to our president's speech this morning. Unfortunately, he had to leave to another very important meeting, so he couldn't continue with us. But at some point later on the show, we'll be having the senior advocate of Nigeria, Mr. Femi Falana, to come and give us a legal perspective to what our president said as regards contradicting the Supreme Court's judgment. So we'll have a conversation with Femi Falana later. But in the meantime, while we're waiting for that, we'd like to hear Nigerians' views on what's been said so far concerning the economic impact. Because according to Mr. Oyedele, he was saying that the fact that you want Nigerians to come and swap or return money to the CBN is completely wrong, especially because about 98% of those of us within the banking system have less than 500,000 Naira. So for those of us who have very minimum money, we should be allowed to go to the banks to as long as possible. It's the big wigs or the politicians or the big people who have money, they're the ones that should be going to CBN because they're the ones you're really trying to catch. So these are some of the conversations that have been said so far. What are your thoughts on this? What are your experiences? Call us on 081-270-53687, 091-390-76948. You can also tweet to us at TVC Connect. Please hashtag your view TVC so we can read your tweet. My worry is that we've always known that our president was not economically strong from day one. And one of the cardinal points he had when he was coming was that he was the anti-corruption. He was coming to help and he was a former military man, so he was going to help us fight insecurity and all that. But economy has never been his strength. I think also Professor Wole Soyinka said it also, that economy has never been his strength. So it's very clear that he's mostly, for the most part, dependent on people's advice to him. Now, when he's been advised by possibly just one man, because the Ministry of Finance said, I'm not involved. The other financial institutions are not involved. They're not part of this meeting. He had an economic team that are not part of this decision. It's only Mr. Emefiele, what's the new name now? Emefiele, Mr. Emefiele. He's the only one that the president is listening to concerning this. Isn't that a problem?
It's a problem. Especially, okay, so there's a reason why when you hold certain positions, you're not supposed to be politically inclined, because that will impede or obstruct when you're supposed to be objective. If you have a job to do and you're supposed to balance all sides, you're supposed to make sure that you are working for the interest of the people, and then you're politically inclined, it's going to blindside you to things that ordinarily you would have seen to say, okay, if I, project this policy or make this policy, it's not going to work for the common man. But because there's something else in your mind, you will not see it. And it's also okay to make a mistake and go back to the drawing board, apologize for your mistake and say, okay, we reeled this out too quickly. We had not considered all the sides. Yeah. We're seeing the backlash right now, and I want to take a step back so that we will review and come back. That makes you a leader. If you do something and you don't do it well, go back and think about it, replan it, and come back with a better and stronger policy. But to insist that since we have made it, this is how we are going, you are leading us to hell.
Based on what you said now, let me just, for a president, I know that my CBN governor just ran for office. He ran for the presidency in the primaries, and he lost. That in itself already would already tell me as a president, are you sure that you're the right person for me to be engaging on this one? Let me get more people, because in itself, he has interest.
Yes,
there's a conflict of interest.
Yeah, especially giving this administration, before the election started, we heard of some people that were resigning because they knew they were going to run for office.
Yes, simple.
So they would not compromise the office that they were
exactly.
holding. It just, and also, largely is that how do you have an administration where just the president and the CBN governor can decide economic policies that affect all of Nigerians? It does not make sense. Whoever comes in after, and before then, we need to, I hope that the legislators are hearing, what do we need to do going forward so something like this does not happen? If you're making any policies concerning Nigeria and you do not put into consideration, you do not sit down with stakeholders and have that conversation with them and look at all the factors and how it will affect Nigerians, then it is not a policy. It cannot be pushed. It does not make sense. Someone, even if the president goes ahead with it, somebody from, the House of Reps or House of Assembly should be able to put a stop to this. And then we're now talking about conversations where the integrity of the Supreme Court is now nothing. The court will tell the federal government to do one thing, the federal government ignores it, the CBN president who has the audacity to ignore it.
Well, let me pause you for a second, because I'm told now we have our senior advocate of Nigeria. Unfortunately, we couldn't get Femi Falana, but we were able to get somebody else, Mr. Wale Taiwo. Good morning, sir. Are you there?
Yeah, good morning. How are you?
Very well, sir. Thank you so much for joining us on such a short notice. Let me start off on where Mariam left off now. She just mentioned the contradiction. One moment the Supreme Court has said that the Naira 200, 500, and 1,000 notes are still legal tenders, according to the judgment last week. And here, the president this morning is contradicting the Supreme Court's judgment, insisting that 1,000 and 500 Naira notes is no longer a legal tender, and only 200 Naira is back in the system. What do you make of this?
Yeah, it only shows the level of degeneration we have depended to in this country. Honestly speaking, in a constitutional democracy, you find out that whatever the Supreme Court says has the toga of finality. An order or judgment of the court, not even just Supreme Court, is valid and subsisting until set aside, and is binding over authorities and persons. So, for the president to now come out and now sign to daily the terms of the judgment or order as made by the Supreme Court only shows the level of abuse in which we have degenerated into this country. So I don't know. I thought when I listened to this morning, I developed these people.
Yeah.
That
Well,
where are we heading to in this country? It's totally wrong.
sir, can the president be
president
held in
has no-
contempt? Can the president be held in contempt?
Why not? The president is not over and above the constitution. Everybody is subjected to the dictates and provision of the constitution of the country. Another made against the company or an agency of the government is valid and subsistent and has to be enforced and carried by those authorities and persons until set aside, notwithstanding whatever the meaning is, either rightly or wrongly made. That is the position of the law.
Right.
And we must respect it.
I'm just wondering, I mean, this is such a laudable act by our president. He wants to curb corruption, he wants to stop vote buying. I'm wondering why he didn't do it 4 years ago when he was running for a re-election.
Well, that is about the policy of the government. They can decide to do it whatever time they want to do it. You know, that is not left for the generality of the people to know whether it's timely or it's not timely. But what I am against is a situation whereby an institution will believe that is over and above the institution of the judiciary. We are operating a constitutional democracy, and we must respect the rule of law and the supremacy of the constitution.
Okay, so the governors of some states have threatened to prosecute companies, banks that fail to accept these old Naira notes. As of yesterday, some states were saying that, listen, I will prosecute you, you must accept 500, 1,000, and 200 Naira notes. Now, from what the president has said today, it puts everybody in a limbo. What do you think is the right thing? What's going to happen to these companies who the state governors are saying that we will prosecute you? Now, the president has now spoken. How is that going to play out, do you think?
Like me.
That's just the confusion in the country now.
Wow.
When the Supreme Court has given an order, and that order is now being made by an institution of government or by the president, I think whatever the Supreme Court says, until set aside or bailing, remains the position of the law. So whoever is prosecuted, that is a good defense of the fact that he is obeying the lawful order as made by the Supreme Court. So they have a defense.
So, sir, okay, he's still speaking.
No, he's great.
Who would hold who responsible now? What do we do now? Okay, they said the court has said the status quo should remain, and then the president is saying it should not remain, but you could have 200 Naira notes. So what do we do now as citizens? If you follow the trend, you see that a lot of people are so angry, they are destroying banks, destroying ATMs. There's civil unrest, so to speak, and it's brewing on a daily. What do we do as citizens? Who would help us? Who will bail us out now?
Who will even follow? Is it Supreme Court or president?
Who do we follow?
You have to follow the Supreme Court order.
How?
You have to follow the Supreme Court order.
Oga don't talk. Oh.
It's not together, there is nobody that is above the law. Everybody under the Constitution and the law, we are all levelers. So it is not a matter of Oga has spoken. It's only just show the confusion in our system. It's only in Nigeria this kind of a thing will happen. That the Supreme Court will say something and the head of the executive will say something contrary.
Well, I'd like to find
In
out.
finality, the buck stops at the table of the Supreme Court.
Right. Okay, so in a situation where, like, as it has happened now, has it ever happened anywhere anytime in our history or anywhere in another country? And how did the country, or how did we handle it at that time? What is the next move that the Supreme Court is supposed to make when something like this happens?
Well, it's less for those who have taken the matter before the Supreme Court to set the machinery of law in motion, to cite the AG in contempt. If you go down in history, that is the Attorney General of a regime that has decided to rub shoulder with the Supreme Court and decide not to carry out the order of the Supreme Court.
Yeah, I mean, okay, so one more thing. I mean, Nigerians are reminding us, you know, there was a Supreme Court judgment recently on even Nnamdi Kanu, and the president did not even the federal government did not budge, you know. So we've seen cases like this happen several times. Even during Dasuki, at some point, we had court cases, there are subsisting judgments, but still the federal government did not budge. And nothing has happened. Many people still, we talk about it, we complain, we condemn, and then we move on. Nigerians don't want this to move on. So you said that hopefully the Attorney General of the Federation can take put the presidency and to take this up again with the Supreme Court. Who else? The governors are also part of this case. Do you think the governors too can also sue the president on this?
What they should know, Murayo, is that we are all players, and whatever we do today is a matter of history. So the time is coming in this country where people will be held accountable for their past deeds. And I can assure you, we are very close to that.
Thank you very much, Mr. Taiwo. I'll let you go at this time. You know, I've heard this. People will be held accountable at some point. You know, but I just keep thinking to myself.
How do we hold them accountable? So they say we should obey the court, and then you go to the markets to pay for your goods, and nobody's collecting the money. The person that is supposed to be collecting the money cannot exchange it in the bank. So who is fooling who? How do we obey when it's not going to work? Nobody's going to collect the money.
Who has held IBB responsible for the annulment of June 12? Like, these are questions that posterity will judge you. The future will judge you.
Who is holding accountable? People say that's a military government, and it was not, you know. But this is different.
This is supposed to be democracy. I just want to answer because a lot of people are saying on YouTube that we're fighting for APC. I can never fight for APC. Let me just say my own. I cannot say, I am fighting because it is Enuba Lomo. Don't reach me. I am affected personally because I run a business that collects cash. And I've not chopped government money before. So I have not gone to, I have 100,000 naira and I can't take it. They say I should take it to CBN.
How?
Look, they want to put 200 naira. During the course of my business over the years, 200 naira is the least money. You don't see it.
Anymore.
You don't see 200 naira. So where is the 200 naira they're going to pump into the market? I couldn't cook a four yesterday because nobody was collecting the money. And I don't have new money. Okay, those with new money, let us know. My brother had to buy new money yesterday. It doesn't make sense to me.
With all due respect, is Buhari not APC? Who's talking about ACC? I would have Nigerians will talk, YK. Don't respond to these people.
I'm just responding.
You don't have to respond.
I have to respond my own personality. This is the personal response.
Okay, we've got to your personal response. We got to the point. All right, let me go on a quick break. When we come back, we'll continue our conversation. Stay with us. We'll be right back.
Stay tuned. Your View will be right back.
Thanks for staying with us. So we still have a caller. Good morning. Are you there, sir? Hello, sir. Thanks for calling. I told you.
I have a message here. Oladidi says, even courts are rejecting old notes, thereby disobeying Supreme Court order. What else can the common man do then? Chaos plus confusion equals anarchy. And that's what is happening. They are saying obey court order.
Read that thing again.
Even courts are rejecting old notes, thereby disobeying Supreme Court's order. Courts that are supposed to uphold the law.
So Mr. Wale Taiwo that said that Supreme Court is above all.
Here for us to ask him that question because I wanted to even bring it up. Because when I saw that courts in the papers today, that courts are rejecting the money, and I said, they are
the ones that made the law.
Said you must accept it. So if court is rejecting it, there is nobody else that's going to accept it.
Yeah. Let's just say that the kind of government that we're running is not
exactly.
Just tell
I've been saying this from time immemorial. We need to review this our democracy. This system of government that we're working on.
Well, you don't have respect for the role that every part plays.
Because the countries that uphold democracy have a respect for the system. They respect. They understand you're a police officer. If I stop you, I stop. Once my siren goes off, I stop because it is my civic responsibility to stop. So they respect the constitution of their various countries, but we don't.
Yeah.
You have to chase people with cane to stop their cars. You have to use Okada to chase them to stop. So this democracy is not, we're not even ripe.
We are not doing democracy.
Republic of Benin, Togo. You know those policemen, they don't carry gun.
Yes, now.
They just do, oh, they don't burn you.
Exactly.
Not to stop. I've seen it happen.
So
They
if a
don't carry
whole
gun.
president can defy a Supreme Court judgment,
So,
several times.
some people will also say, oh, like you gave some examples that happened over time and things like that. But we're talking also of the fact, we're talking of a time and a situation where I'm sure that our president watches television and I'm sure that he reads the newspaper or he has it read to him somehow. And he can see that Nigerians are groaning. And this is what they're saying. We're not saying your policy is wrong. In fact, there are so many people that agree with this policy because we really want to stop the corruption. We really want to stop vote buying. But at what cost? The people that are on the street protesting and breaking things, and at what cost? All you have to do is sit down and think about the betterment of your own citizens. I mean, I've looking at the speech today, it just seems to me like someone who is really not in tune or willing to understand what's happening.
Look like
that was
somebody-
why I was asking, like, what is the time frame for what we're expecting? Okay, yes, it's tough times now, but in 2 weeks, this will all phase out because this is and this is what's going to happen. We don't even have a time frame for what we're doing. It just does not seem like we're listening to Nigerians or we care about Nigerians much, and that's what this is all about.
Let me take this call from Yakub. Good morning, are you there?
Mariah, I'm there.
You're live, go ahead, please.
It is unfortunate. Really, really unfortunate. If the president of the country, when he was sworn in 2 times, he promised to uphold the constitution of the land. But today, it is other way around. Now, they were trying to tell us that they want to cut the food ban. Morayo, it is a lie from the pit of hell.
Ew.
The people that you are trying to cut, that they don't want to allow them to buy food. It is not the day of election they were buying food. That is one thing they don't know. And then even though with that, what concerns Emefiele, anything where it's maybe consigned by cutting people that want to buy. Is it his job to catch the thief? Where is the police? Where is DSS? Where is the other security officials to do that? See, Morayo, here in Lagos, we are still better a bit. Go to my village. I went to my village these days. Last time, Morayo, they were passed through here. You know why? Why? Because some local government, before you can even get to a bank, you will travel all the way like almost 50 miles. So what are you talking about? In fact, you will see some old women, I see tears when I go to my village. They have this money, but the money is useless. And then they were begging for food. And then Mr. President, that I personally campaigned for, he's doing this.
You know, some have described this as the most domestic terrorism in the sense that people have died. People have actually died as a result of this in the last 1 or 2 weeks. They can't get food. This is like a direct terror on people because you are suppressing them and you are also subjecting them to this new policy that is affecting their means of livelihood.
Look, you know that Nigeria, we're a tipping nation. We love to tip people.
Yes.
All those people who expect tips,
they can't get them.
They can't get tips. Nobody's going to tip them.
Exactly.
Because nobody has the money to tip them.
I couldn't tip the guy that helped me carry stuff the other day. I said, sorry, I don't get cash.
So you can see the discontent on the faces of those people.
That kind of person that starts stealing from you. So from when parking your car, he can actually mug you. Because you're giving them options.
I heard that over the weekend. I have not verified it, but I heard over the weekend that an eatery where they said chicken was robbed. Armed robbers entered there. The armed robbers know that they're not going to see money inside that place now. What have they gone for? Chicken.
Hey.
So that's what the hunger has reached there.
And you know one thing about this is not the fact that we're saying, oh, there's some people down in, you know, when you hear, oh, in Zamfara, so far away that are going through these issues. I know people face to face that are saying, if not for this money that you just gave me, I would not have eaten. This is the last money I have and I'm buying food in my house. Or as of right now, I have no food in my house. And I'm talking of normal, regular people that, you know, you see. We're not talking of people that you may think, oh, it's happening to them because they're in a faraway village. We're talking to people, normal people who go to work, who close from work, who do their best for their country, who have children in school, and they are saying that they cannot even afford to buy food. Not afford to buy food because they do not have money that they earn, though. And you know what's paining Nigerians? It's like, this is money that I earned. This is my money in the bank, and you're refusing to give it to me. What am I even asking for? Just give me a few of my notes so I can go to the market and get food for my children, so I can inject it into my business and sell more. So that the food that's just lying down, getting spoiled on the farms and the markets would be used properly. That's what Nigerians are talking about. And a policy that does not understand that it has a direct human impact. I don't know how what we're thinking. Every policy we make has a direct human impact. That's what policies are about.
I'm told we have Dr. Charles Omole, is a lawyer, security consultant, trainer, and strategist to businesses and governments across Europe, Middle East, and Africa. He's on the phone to us. I wanted you to ask him that question concerning the fact that the Supreme Court says something, even the courts themselves are not collecting the money. Sir, are you there? Good morning.
Good morning.
Thanks for joining us this morning. Go ahead, BC, any question?
Okay, good morning, sir. The last guest told us that we must follow the Supreme Court's judgments, that at least that's the height of everything. But unfortunately, some lawyers have not been able to push their cases in court because the courts are rejecting the money. So if the courts can reject the money, knowing what the Supreme Court has said, who are we and what do we do?
Well, I mean, the courts rejecting the money, I think it's probably a function of the fact that the money we have to end up in the banks. So if they collect it, where will they take it? I think that kind of hides from the bigger picture and bigger challenge with this whole policy. The difficulty, I think, with this current Naira redesign is the fact that it's almost like trying to use one medication to cure 10 illnesses. And that tends not to work. Every Naira or currency redesign tends to have focused intentions, either to secure the note more, so they bring new security features, or to mop up, money supply in the population. But the moment you begin to have things like you want to stop vote buying and all these other political considerations, you model up that policy, and that creates a problem. I mean, if, for example, government wants to stop people buying votes, they know where this money is kept. The politicians that have this money stacked up somewhere, the intelligence services know where they are. There are ways they could have done this without inflicting this pain on the entirety of the population.
Exactly.
Because all the challenges we are facing with this right now, they are all foreseeable. In making policy, one of the key things you have to look at is what are the foreseeable impacts of this decision.
Dr.
And
Charles,
more importantly, yes.
Let me ask you this question Nigerians are really worried about. The fact that the federal government can actually disobey a Supreme Court order and nothing happens. Are we running a democracy or not?
Well, that is a problem. I agree. I mean, we have a government right now that feel they can do pretty much what they like. And I think that clearly is a problem. This is not the first time the government are disobeying court orders. Even the CBN governor that is disobeying court order now went to the court late last year to get an injunction against himself being arrested. And that was even the High Court. And yet, they use the court when it favors them, then they disobey the court when it doesn't favor them. At the end of the day, this just shows a clear drift in governance, no clear control. Everybody's just doing what they like. And I think it's a sad commentary on Nigeria as a nation that, the pain I've seen all over the place it's immense. People are really suffering from this policy.
Right.
So, for a government to now allow, what the president said this morning, in my own opinion, is too little too late. You could have said it last month. You could have said it last week. Why wait till the 9 minutes when lots of people are already there? So I feel generally that as a country, we need to focus. I mean, even a lot of I've seen you've had guests in the past where this whole economic paradigm that Emefiele is sort of spewing around is actually not even sound economics.
Yes, we've been told, we've seen that over time. I mean, everybody's saying it, that it doesn't make any sense, doesn't make any economic sense. It's not going to curb inflation because there's still going to be cash in the system, either we're transferring or not.
It doesn't
When you are buying
Inflation
50,000 with 40,000 with 50,000, is that not inflation?
So
That's not even inflation on commodities, it's inflation on Naira.
all right, there's a question I wanted to ask you concerning all the destruction. I mean, in Edo, I think in Lorry, but people were just destroying ATMs. And I'm thinking to myself, these are the ATMs we are struggling to go and withdraw. Is it not 5,000 or 10,000 naira?
But the monies are not coming out of those ATMs.
Yeah, but at least if they now finally... So, as a lawyer, what do you think the banks can do? I mean, yes, it's not the bank's fault. And they're just working, under the instructions of the CBN. How do we remodel this law such that the CBN doesn't have this kind of full control? Because they seem to have so much control, don't you think?
That is true, but I think we have a CBN governor that I think is unprecedented in the history of Nigeria. You would have thought he was working for a military junta, not a democratic
administration.
country.
Yeah.
I mean, the challenge at the moment is the fact that people, when they are pushed to the wall, will do whatever they feel they need to do. The destruction of properties is not very good. But then, Emefiele for a long time was blaming the banks for all the problems, that the banks are keeping the money.
Yeah.
So people vented their anger on where he said.
Can the banks sue Emefiele for that?
Which of the banks?
Technically, maybe, but in reality, no, because CBN is their regulator. So clearly, you can't. Even if you sue, there will be all kinds of, fallback on you. I mean, I've spoken to the MDs of a few banks in the last week, and I asked them, why are you not speaking out? And what they told me was, we speak out, CBN will punish us one way or the other.
Yeah.
So everybody's keeping quiet because they are afraid of ways CBN have to kind of eat back at them. So it's not a question whether they can sue, but the issue is they will not sue for those obvious reasons.
CBN is the head of state.
So, Dr. Mole, there are some Nigerians that feel that anyone who is criticizing the way this policy is being implemented has some political affiliations or leanings, and they're against, the anti-corruption war. Is that how you see it, and how do you, or if not, how do you see it, and what would you say to people saying that?
Well, I mean, this is what I call the danger of a single story. A lot of Nigerians, I don't think, have the critical thinking capacity to understand the fact that you can support the policy but disagree with the way it's implemented. And I think that's the issue here. Everybody seems to have their own pet, disease that they feel this currency redesign will cure. For those who feel this will help stop vote buying, they are closing their eyes to every other consequence. They are just fixated on that one agenda. And others have their own reasons for this. But you have to be able to do what I call 360-degree thinking, which is to analyze the impact of a policy from every conceivable angle. When you do that, you'll be able to say, okay, this is a good policy. Up to this point, it's fine. But these are the ways you could have done it to make it better. That balanced, cool-headed thinking is not reflected in Nigerian society at the moment. You just have to go online, and you will see that those who feel this is what they want you to do are blinded to everything else. 100 people might be dying around them, they don't care, so long as it stops vote buying. And that's also, there are ways we can walk and chew at the same time. We can stop vote buying through many other ways without inflicting this on the people. So I feel, therefore, I don't agree that if you criticize the implementation, it means you don't support the policy. I personally support the policy. But there are ways this could have been done in ways that will, be better for everybody. But they've just botched the whole thing. And that's really, really sad. That's really sad.
Professor Isel Sage was saying, I think a few days ago, that maybe somebody should arrest Godwin Emefiele. I mean, put him in prison for like 1 week or so. Maybe he can recalibrate his brain. I mean, he was just saying, I mean, maybe all jokingly, but can the Supreme Court, because I think BC was asking the question now, if the Supreme Court said this, President is saying that, what can we do? What's the next line of action? So can the Supreme Court order for the arrest of Godwin Emefiele for at least, I mean, we know the presidency has immunity, but can the Supreme Court request for the arrest of Godwin Emefiele for this pronouncement by the president today?
It's contempt now.
In this case, I don't think so.
Wow.
Because if you actually look at the papers filed, while Emefiele himself was not named specifically of CBN, because if the states that filed the case, if they had included the CBN or Emefiele, then it will have to start. Then that will outside the original jurisdiction of the Supreme Court. Supreme Court original jurisdiction has to do with more state-to-state matter, not personal or institutional grievances. So that we have to mean we're about to start from the high court and then work their way up. So cleverly, they removed CBN and personal individuals away from being joined and made it a state-to-state affair.
Right.
But the key point here is the fact that the president gives the order. The CBN Act is very clear. It's at the instruction of the president. So clearly, basically, they can easily hide behind the fact that I'm acting as instructed. So, and of course, the president has immunity. You know, look, in Senate climate, if a governor or a president or anybody in public office disobeys even the High Court order, and it's a democratically elected position, that person is bound to lose the next election. Because that's the way the democratic society, you hold our systems, our officials accountable. You can't have a president or an elected official disobeying court order and then still win the next election. That will never happen.
Right.
The problem we have in Nigeria is...
Let me get one question in for you before we go, sir. Go ahead.
Okay, sir. So I would like to know, in your view, what you think the average Nigerian, who right now doesn't have cash to even buy food, can do to survive, pending when the CBN governor or the president or the Supreme Court solves this matter. What can we do in the interim? And also, the civil societies, I'm not hearing so much. Isn't this the time they're supposed to probably get international help to help us chop first? That's just the question.
It's about politics.
Well, I mean, the problem is that a lot of civil society groups are fixated on the issue of vote buying. So as far as they are concerned, this will help vote buying, and they feel the game is what can, so to speak.
Okay.
Which I don't agree with. But in terms of what ordinary Nigerians can do, there's very little we can do at the moment. All that we are at the mercy of the government in terms of how we get money and cash on a day-to-day basis.
Thank you very much, Dr. Charles Omori. Let me allow you to go. Thank you so much for joining us and sharing your views this morning on this matter. I know that the Lagos State governor has started sharing palliatives to some people. I mean, I was hearing they're carrying boxes here and there. Governors are beginning to find solutions, at least to their citizens, at least in the meantime, until these people resolve the confusion. Between now and next week, they're giving palliatives. And that's states that can afford it. Other states that can afford it. Yes. That's Lagos that can possibly afford it, and maybe a few other states. But what of states that can't afford it? Ordinary salary they cannot pay. Is it palliative they want to go and give their citizens? So
how many people do you want to give palliative?
Exactly. To to get to there's some proper. I mean, people grassroots really that need that palliatives. So we are hoping that maybe after elections, Mr. Emefiele and the Emefiele can change the policy.
Okay, so maybe that's what the timeline I've been
talking about. So now that once the elections are over, let me say it properly,
not telling us that.
Godwin Emefiele may reverse the policy. I'm not saying you're saying that. I'm just saying hopefully after the elections and they've announced the winner, possibly
they will not reverse.
They will not reverse it because obviously we can't continue like this.
At that time,
hopefully
they don't need vote buying again.
Election is next week now.
Next week Saturday, so
we should
maybe
die before the elections because people need to eat. People need to go for medical care. People need things to be done. So how do we do it before the elections? Very important.
Where hospitals were refusing to take cash because they were not giving them the new cash.
They were not giving them new cash. Transactions were not going.
But the blood of those who have died, who takes responsibility? Like these young 4 guys that died yesterday doing all this protest. somebody's hands are stained with somebody's blood.
They will judge the matter.
I mean, God will have to judge this matter because it's unfair.
So we need to understand that we are not operating a democracy. Let's stop lying to ourselves.
Yes.
This is demonstration of Chris. We're not a federal system. We're not operating a federal system of government. This is a unitary, so to speak. So Nigerians will pick a title and then do it their own way, where the leaders are the ones that dictate what will happen and they are not listening to other people. We need to go back to the drawing board and ask ourselves, where do we want to go? Yeah. If democracy is not going to work for us, let us go back to monarchy system. Let's find something tailored to suit our own that will work for us. This is not working for us. And it is very unfair that in 2023, these are the issues we are dealing with in a country like Nigeria, where we're supposed to be dealing with things, innovations that will lift us and move us forward. We are still harassing ourselves over coloring Naira, rule of law and all of that.
This is supposed to move us forward.
Oh, really?
I didn't know.
Cashless.
It's supposed to move us forward. But we are in permanent reverse right now. We are not even reversing with our back. We have turned and are reversing with our front.
Going back. Okay, we have to take a few comments before we run off because I have about 5 minutes left. So let's take a few comments on social media. But the point is that Nigerians are groaning in pain. Let me let you go, Mariam. Go ahead, please.
Dami says, good morning, ladies. God bless you all for this program. This Naira issue is not funny. Imagine I had to borrow money to go out yesterday. The woman gave me old note. Getting to the island, I was able to withdraw 4,000 with 500 Naira charges so I can refund her. But to my greatest surprise, the woman just changed it for me, that she cannot take the money again. I was shocked. Her reason is that no one is collecting old money anymore, even though that's what she had given her in the morning.
So Omoyeni says, this is really disheartening. I spoke with my parents and they can't even buy food to eat. Imagine people in their 70s going to bed hungry when they have money in the bank. Nigeria needs help. Andrew says, you don't rush policies like this. It should have been done for at least 2 years.
All right, so somebody here say, Buhari and Emefiele, they are legends, allowing only old 200 Naira notes to be in circulation until April 10th.
Femi says, I have to reason how to get to work and money to buy things. Going cashless has limited my buying basic things. I pity the aged who are not literate enough.
Ade Noble Bliss says, let's hope that the elections will hold because at this rate, anything can happen. I see the current situation ominous of an unharmonious election, if any. And that's the fear most people have. I hope that the elections will hold because if we are having this sort of civil unrest already in different parts of the country, only God knows what will happen on the day of election.
Buhari did not mention anything about palliatives. He didn't mention that, okay, let me help some system. I need help because there are states that they're having issues. Remember, we're told that banks are very far, sometimes 20 kilometers, 30 kilometers from various villages. So people are finding it very difficult to do that trip. Just going to take maybe 10,000 or 5,000 Naira.
Or even 1,000.
Our government representatives, we should send them, when they come into office, we should send them to the villages to go and have their offices there and see how regular Nigerians are living. When you live in the city and everything, you forget. You create a bubble and forget how many more Nigerians are actually living.
Did you read Ifemi's tweet?
No. Yes, I did.
Okay.
So we saw the tweet from Andrew S. Nevin. He says, your federal government point about banknotes outside system retarding economic activity is absolute economic nonsense.
Okay.
So maybe a lot of economists have said that position, they're trying to mop up all the money outside, it doesn't make any economic sense. For those economists, we still have to bring a few more to have a better understanding because this is the advice our president is getting from Godwin Emefiele. And for some reason, our president has bought into this vision and he has agreed, because he said it himself, that he approved the remodeling of the Naira last quarter 2022. So he's well aware of what's going on. So before everybody absorbed Buhari, say, oh, it's Emefiele. No, it's not Emefiele. Buhari is very, very aware of this. And yes, he's just using Emefiele.
We're calling Emefiele because we're saying that you advise.
Should know better.
Yes,
you advise this.
And maybe you didn't take advice.
Yes, but we have seen in other countries where you don't take advice. I'm sorry, I cannot be part of this policy, and thereby I resign because this is not, in keeping with my values or whatever. The Minister of Finance is quite silent on this issue. She has been quiet.
Those people have integrity now.
She has been quite quiet on
this. Yes, they did not even call her when they were in the meeting. So.
Well, there you have it. Our president have spoken. The Supreme Court also have. They've also adjourned the case to, I think, September 2022. No, September. What am I saying?
No,
next week.
Next week.
The
February
hearing.
2022.
February.
February 22.
22nd of February next week. We'll hear the Supreme Court's ruling after they heard the counter suit from the federal government. So we'll hear what they have to say, but that'll be way too close to the elections. I mean, things that have really, really happened. But we're hoping that state governors should find ways to offer palliatives to citizens, especially those who cannot access cash. ATMs have been destroyed in those states. I don't know how. I don't know if the insurance company will cover this, the fixing of these ATM, because what you've done is destroy these machines. Now, even if CBN now brings cash to them, how would you get the cash? You still have to go and line up. Now, the lines are now triple and quadruple because the ATMs don't work. So you all have to enter the bank. So by destroying banks, you've only made things harder for yourself.
Hey, Murayo, please, has anybody asked them why they have not brought out new money?
You know,
remember they said now that they only printed 300 billion. They've mopped up 2.7 inside the system. So how do you replace 2.7 trillion with 300 billion? It doesn't make any sense. So that's why they're advising them, go and print outside. If your means doesn't have the capacity to print more than 300 billion, then print outside and bring, because we need more money in the system. So I have 10,000 in my account. I can only withdraw 2,000 because you've only printed 300 billion.
Banks don't even have the money again.
They don't. I was listening to the radio. This guy is a banker.
Banks don't even collect from CBN because CBN has already indicted them.
He can't lie that they don't have money inside the bank.
Yeah, they don't have.
If I was a bank manager, I won't collect new money.
CBN is not even giving.
I would just shut down
managers.
because CBN has already implicated us and said that we are hoarding. So don't even bring your money into my bank.
They're not
Go
even
and distribute
give
it to your people yourself. I don't want to be part of it. I wouldn't even collect from any CBN officer because they don't want to put in videos out there saying that I'm hoarding your money. I won't take your money.
CBN is not giving again. Money don't finish. That's the point. Now, when they give you first, you go, they do shakara. They are not giving. The banks don't have any money. So God will help us till next week. Let's see how we're going to survive.
That's all we can take on today's show. See you tomorrow.
Bye-bye.